Alright, in this tutorial we're going to be looking at drawing CAD-207. Now the whole idea of this one, this is a fairly simple drawing, but what I want to sort of try and impart to you in this drawing is sort of to learn how to draw a little bit smarter than harder. So in most of the drawings you would have done so far, you would have been drawing general basic straight lines, putting some arcs in there, but everything would be individual objects, so individual lines, arcs, circles, all that sort of stuff. So what we're going to be looking at in this drawing is I'm going to run you through how to draw this sort of object using your rectangles, your circles, and sort of using the trim tool and a few other bits and pieces just to make it a little bit easier. Now, probably the first thing we need to do is just before you actually start drawing, and this is something I want you to get used to, particularly through the course that we're doing here, is have a look at the objects on the drawing, okay, and break it down into basic shapes. So before, where we used to just draw lots of lines and arcs and circles and that, I want you to now have a look at each drawing and break it down into the basic shapes that we've got to draw with, which we know are lines, arcs, circles, rectangles, polygons, ellipses, and polylines. So having a look at this object here, you can see even though it's got rounded corners, we can pretty much break this down into a rectangle. We have another rectangle over here. In this case we have an arc. Now one of the things I'm going to show you in here is we don't actually need to draw the arcs. We have a little tool called fillet, and fillet will put round corners on things. There's another tool that goes in hand with that, which is chamfer, and that puts angled corners on things. So in this case we're going to use the fillet tool. The other thing we need to look at as well is we have these holes. Now there's a little note up here saying 4 holes, diameter 10, and we have these center marks and stuff in there. Now, in terms of these, you'll see they are all the same. Now what I want you to sort of get used to is, particularly when it comes to drawing these, don't draw 4 individual circles and then come back and draw 4 individual center marks. You're going to be there forever, and this is going to be creating extra work for you. Now in terms of thinking smart, what we need to do is let's get one circle in first. Let's put all these center marks in. We'll apply them to any layers and bits and pieces that we need to do first, and then we will copy that around. Okay, so we're just saving ourselves a bit of work. Now when it comes to drawing this part, again, this is an orthographic drawing, so you can see here we're in third angle, so you're going to make sure these line up. You're going to draw your rectangle in there, and we will be projecting lines from these points straight across, from the center across, and all that sort of stuff. But in previous drawings we would draw them from there to the perpendicular point, and then we'd stretch them back using a grips. In this case, what I'm going to get you to do is just using ortho, we're just going to project them straight across, so we get nice straight lines, and we're only going to do half of it because you'll see the bottom half is the same. And we'll then use a trim tool to go and trim up all the bits and pieces. We'll scale up the center lines, apply the objects to their appropriate layers, and we'll go from there. Now I'm not sure whether I've shown you layers in other drawings or whether in class, so I'm actually going to go through layers just basically in this tutorial, just to give you a refresher if you have done it, or if you haven't done it, then it shows you how to do it. Alright, so let's get into it. So the very first thing I need to do is let's go and set up some layers. Layers are very easy to set up. You'll see you have your layer properties button just up here. So if we click on there, now you'll notice I've already got some layers in here, just ignore them. The way we create these layers is you'll see this little button up here. This is your new layer button. So you just click on that and you'll see it gives you a layer. Okay, we can give that layer a name, so let's call it outline. Now these layer names, you can call them whatever you like, so when you get into jobs later on, you may have layers for particular materials and parts and all that sort of stuff. For what we're going to be doing here, I've got a couple of basic names that we're just going to give to, like outlines, hidden lines, center lines, all that sort of stuff. Alright, so you can go and click on the button again if you like, and let's make one called center. And it's up to you how you want to spell that. Press enter. And I'll click on that again. Alright, so we've got center, we've got outline. Let's put in hidden, enter. Okay, if there's any other ones that we need, probably not so much at this stage. If you want to do dimensions and all that sort of stuff, you can create them later on as well. Now in terms of line weights and colors and bits and pieces, the ones I normally use in class for hidden, If we click on the little color swatch there, we're just going to use these primary index colors down the bottom. The reason we use those is because we can set our plot styles up so all of these print black, because trying to see a yellow line on a white background is very hard. But if we did want to print yellow, then we can use these colors up here. So you can see that color 50 and color yellow are the same, color 1 and color 10 are the same. So you have corresponding ones up in this swatch up here. Alright, so that's what we're going to use. So hidden, we'll use magenta, which is color 6. Center, I'm going to use red, which is color 1. And outline, we will use cyan, which is color 4. Okay, so I've assigned a color to them. Then what we need to do is assign a line type. Now you can see generally outlines are just going to be continuous, but for center lines we want to load up the center to line type, and for hidden we want the hidden to line type. So the easiest way to load these up is just click on where it says continuous here. Now you'll see I've already got them loaded up in here, so what I'm going to do is still run you through the process on how you would do this. Okay, so generally you would just see continuous in here. To load them up, just simply click on the load button, and this is going to open up this little window here. And make sure up the top it says AutoCAD-ISO.lin. If you just have AutoCAD.lin, then it means you're using the Imperial template. So you want to go back, start your drawing again, just type in new, just when you're in a drawing, and search for the AutoCAD-ISO.DWT template. Okay, and that will load up the correct one. So from there you can click on here and scroll down, or if you know the name of the line type that you want, you can just type in whatever the first letter is. So in this case H. So I just click on hidden to, and then I'd click OK. I'd repeat the process again, and we'd go to center to as well. So you click OK and you load those up. They will pop up in here. Then all you're going to do is select the line type, click OK, and that will apply it to your layer. As you can see here, hidden, that applies to hidden one. We'll go to center, do the same thing, click OK. That's now applied this center to line type to that layer. The other thing what we need to do is assign some line weights. Now you can get all this from AS 1100 in your general drafting standards, which you'll find in the Blackboard course. Generally for the drawings that we're going to be doing for A4 up to A2 are all going to be, so for hidden we're going to use a 0.35 line weights. For center will be 0.25, and your outline we will make that 0.5. Okay, so I've applied those, and yeah, that's pretty much your layers created. Very easy. Now one thing I will mention, you can see just down here I have a layer called viewport. This is something we're going to be doing a bit later on, and I've set that not to print. Just make sure you don't actually set these not to print, or lock them, or freeze them, or turn them off, or anything like that, because they will create problems when you're creating your drawing, or when you're trying to print. You'll see nothing show up. Alright, so that's pretty much your layers created. From there you can just go and close that, and you'll see when you click the little pull down up the top, you have those layers that were created. Now the def points one, that's just one that was in my drawing. This is a drawing that I've used before. Def points only pops up when you create drawings. It's a layer you don't touch, you don't need to do anything with it. It's just a layer that is created when you create dimensions. So we'll just ignore that. Now to draw, I normally just stay on layer 0, and as I'm drawing things I'll assign them to layers. I found that's probably the easiest way of going. So just stay on layer 0, yeah, and just apply them as you go. The only time I do put myself on a layer is generally at the end of the drawing. That's when I do all my dimensions. So I don't dimension as I go, I dimension at the end. And in that case I'd put myself on a dimension layer and then go and do all my dimensions. So in here we've got layer 0. Make sure all of these properties, these are your overrides here, just make sure they all say by layer. So what by layer means is it just tells the or AutoCAD to take that object and assume the line weight, line type, and the color of the layer. And I'll just give you a quick demo on this. So I'm just going to draw a line quickly. So there's a line. If I select that and I apply that to a layer, so you just select it, click your layer pull down, and you'll see if I click on outline, that is now on the outline layer. If I press escape, you'll see I'm still on layer 0, but if I select a line, it will show it's on the outline layer. And notice the color has changed up here, but it still says by layer. Click on the layer pull down again. If I put it on, say, hidden, you'll see the line changes to a hidden line, same color as the layer. Same deal with center line. So that's where this comes in handy. The whole idea of using layers is it helps us manage our drawing, and you'll see that at a later date. So getting into the drawing, we're now looking at this. So what I want you to do, again, break it down into basic shapes. What do we have? We pretty much have a rectangle here. How big is that rectangle? Well, we know it's 60 from center to center, and then the radius, which is coming from the center of those circles, is 10. Right, so we've got 10 there, 10 there, so it gives us 80 in total. From here we have 30 to the center, or in this case 40 from center to center, so add 10 either side, then we've got 60. So we know the rectangle itself is 80 by 60. So let's go and draw that. Okay. So clicking on the rectangle tool this time, so we're not using basic lines, we're actually going to use the rectangle tool. So we'll click on there. And make sure you read your command line and all that sort of stuff as you go. Now, one thing I will point out is when you do the rectangle, don't go down here and click on width. Okay, that's going to change the width of the line. So a rectangle is a polyline, and it's actually going to make the polyline quite thick. Okay, we don't want to do that. We're just going to leave that. So we'll click our start point, just anywhere like that, and pull your mouse out, and you can see what's happening. We're getting this rectangle happening. Now, having a look in your dynamic inputs, you'll see the first number there that's highlighted. That is the length. So we're just going to type in 80 to jump across to the height or the width. We type in, press the tab key, and from there type in 60 and enter. Okay, so there is your rectangle. That's exactly what we're after. All good. Now we know that the fillets are in the corners here. Okay, and we have them in all of the corners. We know the radius of those is 10. The easiest way to do this, okay, again, drawing smart, click on this little tool up here. This is called fillet. You'll see if you click the pull down, there's chamfer and blend curves. We're just using fillet. And the very first thing you always have to do when you click on the fillet tool is make sure you look in the command line just down here, because what this does is it tells you what your current radius is. You'll see here I have 0. If I go and do a fillet right now and just follow the prompts and click first point, second point, it's going to give me a square corner, which is what I've already got. Okay, so noticing that the radius is 0, the very first thing I have to do is go and change that. So I'll go down and you can click on the radius option, or you can type in whatever the capital letter is, and our radius is 10, enter. And from there it says click select first objects. You can go click there, then you have to repeat the command because it'll only allow you to do one fillet at any time. You could choose to use multiple, and that will allow you to do multiple fillets, but again you're clicking every line. What we got to look at in this case is this is a polyline, and you got to ask yourself, do we want to fillet every corner of this polyline? If the answer is yes, you'll see there's a polyline option in the command line. So we'll go and click on polyline, and now it says select 2D polyline. If you move your mouse over the polyline, you will see it will fillet every single corner for you. Okay, so we'll click on that, and now we have all those fillets in there. Now the beauty of this as well is we know our circles. Let's just jump back over to the drawing. So we know our circles here, they share the same center point as the arc. Now I know that because we can see the radius of the arc is coming from the center of the circle, and we've predetermined that before anyway. And we know these are 10, so diameter 10, there's 4 of them, and we've got the center marks in there. Now when it comes to center marks, I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing it. If you've got AutoCAD 2018 and onwards, there's a center mark tool. It is a little funny to use, but we can have a play with that. And I'm also going to show you how to use a command called dim center, which we do using the quick keys. Okay. Alright, so back here, easiest way to do this, let's go and click on the circle. Now you can either use circle radius or circle diameter, it's up to you. I'm just going to use circle radius because working out the radius of a 10mm circle is pretty easy. So let's click on that, and now you'll see if I move just over here, I don't know where to click. What you actually have to do is move your mouse over the arc. So you can see the arc there. So if I move my mouse over, I get this little green cross just down here, and moving over there, we should get the center point. Now, if you're not getting any of those, what you need to do is come down and check that. So we're looking down in the status bar, come down and check that you've got your O snaps turned on, and if you click the little pull down, you want to make sure that these are all switched on down to and including tangent. Won't worry about nearest at this stage, I'll show you that at a later date. Okay, so make sure they're all switched on. That's going to allow us to click the things like center points, end points, mid points, all that sort of stuff. All right. Okay, so I've done that. I go and click on the center point and just pull your mouse out, and you can type in your radius, or if you're using the diameter option, type in the diameter. Now, if you do make the circle the wrong size, it's very easy to fix. Don't delete it, just double click on the circle. You'll see you get this little pop-up in here, and you can go and change the diameter. You see I can make that 20 if I like. Okay, so just double click in there, type in 10. Alright, so easy enough. All good? Cool, let's close that. Now the other thing we want to do, since we've already started drawing, let's go and select our objects and let's put them on the outline layer. Okay, so I just selected the objects, click on the pull down, layer pull down, and choose outline. Press escape once you're done. Next thing we're going to do, again, I'm going to show you two different ways of doing this. So the first way, I'm going to use the dimension or the center mark. The second way, I'm going to use dim center. Very easy to use. If you go up, and we're looking at the annotate tab just up the top here in your ribbon, so click on annotate, and you'll see straight over here under center lines there is a center mark tool. So if you click on that, it's very easy. You just click on the circle. Now, one thing that we don't want happening here, so I just pressed enter to finish that. You'll see that these center marks stop pretty much almost on the circle. We don't want that. We want them either shorter or in general extending out beyond. Okay, the easiest way of doing this, you see, if you come down here and you click on one of these arrows, you can stretch it out, but that's only stretching one out. We don't want that. So what I'm going to do here is just move over the center mark, or the center grip, and click on change extension length. Okay, and you notice I didn't click on the center grip, I just hovered over it. Click on change extension length, and what you can do now is you can pull that out. Okay, and you can see here we got a number that we can put in there, so let's maybe make it 2 and enter. Okay, so that's now made them much bigger. From there, with it still selected, we'll go back to the home tab, and you can see it's set to center. What we're going to do is override this, change that back to by layer, and then put that on the center layer. Okay. Alright, so now we have that complete. The other way of doing this, I'm just going to leave this one here. I'll just copy this circle across. So CO for copy, and let's just copy that across over here. Now the other way of doing this is using a quick key tool. So this is from older versions of AutoCAD. It's still in this version here. Now the reason I'll explain why we're doing this is because you'll see with these center marks, if I go to change length and I try and bring that in here, see I can't do it. I can't actually make these smaller. Okay, all right. So if you do want small center marks, you're going to have to do it this way. And the quick key for this is just DCE. Okay, very simple, DCE for dim center, and then you just select the circle. What this does is it puts a center mark in there. Now that's a predetermined size which you can change in your dimension settings. Just under the annotation tab, you come down to dimension styles, and you can edit the ISO 25 one. So if we go modify, and what this does, it opens up this window, and you're going to go to symbols and arrows, and you'll just see down here center marks is set to mark, and it's set to 2.5. That should be default, and what that is, you can change that to whatever you like, but what that is that means from this point here to there is 2.5. Now if I use the distance option and check from there to there, you can see I've got 2.5. Okay, so that's all that is. Generally when I do these, I'm scaling these up or shrinking them or whatever, so I don't bother too much about changing those unless they're extremely small. So in this case, the good thing about that was once it's done, you just select it straight up to your layer pull down and center. Now if that's the size that you want, you can leave them at that. If you did want to scale these up, you can use your scale tool, or in this case, normally I just click on the middle grip, press enter 3 times, 1, 2, 3, that takes us to scale, and then you can just pull that out to wherever you like. Okay, if you wanted to specify a size, so you can see here, that's going to be what, 2.7, if you want to go to 3, yeah, it's up to you. Or you can use your reference option down the bottom, and you can say, okay, let's take that length there and pull that out to wherever you want. Okay, so those are options for you. In this case, I'm just going to keep the original one that we've done since it's already in place. Alright, so the next step, we have this one done. It's on the correct layer. We've got the circle, the center marks are all in there, everything's good to go. Now make sure you do layer and put your center marks in before you do this next step, otherwise you're just creating more work for yourself. So from there, what we're actually going to do is let's go and click on the copy tool. So that's one just up here, and we're going to select the circle and the center mark. Now please use your selection windows and your crossing windows, get used to it. Don't just sit there clicking on everything individually. Okay, it's very slow and time consuming. Alright, so once we've selected that, let's press enter, and our base point, so it's asking for a base point, or you know, where do you want to copy it from. So the thing that we have to look at, if we go back to our drawing, you'll see that all these circles, they all share the same center points as the arcs. Okay, so that makes it very easy for us. What we're actually going to do is just click on the center of the circle. Now you can see I'm getting an insert point. That's just because of the type of center line that we popped in there. If you did DCE, you'll get either midpoints or intersections. So I'll click on there, and this is very easy. All you need to do now is we want to put it at the center of this circle. How do we do it? Make sure you move over the arc, come down, click on the center point. Okay, same down the bottom, over the arc, center point, over the arc, center point. There are other ways we could do this, as in terms of we could use a rectangular array, but because there's only 4 holes and we already have the center points, this is very easy. The other thing we're going to do is since we've already got the circle and the center marks, let's go and use these, and we're going to move over this rectangle, which is a polyline, and we're going to click on geometric center. So just make sure you've got geometric center turned on in your OSnaps. So click on there and press enter. From there, we've now got all the holes in there, and we've got this little thing in the center. We're only going to use this circle just so we can get the size of our polygon that's going in there. Okay, so having a look back at the drawing, what do we know about that polygon? We know it is 14, and AF means across flats. So these are the flats here, and we've got 14 millimeters from that side to that side. Now that circle that we've got in there at the moment, we're going to use it. Because when you create polygons, you're going to have there's 3 options where you can specify an edge. Now we don't know the length of one of these edges, so we can specify from the center, we can specify a radius from the center to the flat, or from the center to the point. Now since we know the distance from flat to flat, that's going to put our circle on the inside of the object. If we know the distance between the points, our circle is going to be on the outside. So since the circle is on the inside and the object is on the outside of the circle, it's going around the circumference of the circle. What we're going to do in this case is there's an option called circumscribed. So you'll see that in a second. So that's what we're going to use. So first we need to set that little circle to a radius of 7. We'll go and do that now, and then we'll draw our polygon. Okay. So back in the drawing, changing the size of the circle, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can just click on one of these grips. You can see it says 5 in there, and you can just type in 7. Okay, quite easily. Or you can just double click on the circle as before and change the radius or the diameter. Okay, pretty easy. So now we have that. We're going to use the polygon tool. So where you would find the polygon tool is just under the rectangle tool. Clicking the pull down here, you'll see a polygon. Okay, so we click on polygon, and first thing you want to look at is number of sides. Okay, so by default it's got 4. We're doing a hexagon, so we need 6. So put in 6 and enter. Now it's asking for the center. Well, the center is just going to be the center of that circle. So click on there, and inside circumscribe. Now we've already determined that this is going to be circumscribed, so it's going about the circle. Inscribed will put the object on the inside, circumscribed on the outside. So I'll click on circumscribe, and you can see here we can pull it out. So we're giving it across the flats. Now the next thing we want to just double check is, see the point is facing up. By default, when you draw this polygon, the points will go sideways. Okay, so having the circle in here makes this easy. If you don't have that circle in here, then the polygon will have the point sideways, and then you're going to need to rotate it either 30 or 90 degrees. Since we already have the circle in there, we can just come and click just on the side here, and that's already got the radius in there that we want. So you just click there, you can delete that circle and select your polygon, pop that onto the outline layer. Okay. Now at this stage, if you want to make your center marks bigger, you can. Okay, simply just hovering over that middle grip, change length, and you can pull that out a little bit more if you like. It's up to you. Okay. Alright, so that's pretty much that done. Okay, not too painful. Next step, what we're going to do is now draw this rectangle over here. So popping back to our drawing, let's go and have a look. What do we know about it? Okay, it is 20 wide, and it's obviously going to be 60 high from top to bottom, because this is the right side view. Now, how far away does that need to be? Okay, doesn't really matter at this stage. What we are looking at is in terms of the final drawing later on. Okay, and you don't need to worry about it for this drawing. But you'll notice we're looking for a balance, sort of see how we've got a balance of blank space either side and sort of in the center here. That's pretty much what we're looking for. Since we're not putting this on a title block at this stage, I'm not too fussed. You can see from there to there is about that's 80 mil, so that's probably close to 60 or something like that. Really up to you. So what I'm going to do is start with the rectangle. So click on the rectangle tool. Now this is where we're going to use object snap tracking, because remember it is orthographic, so everything has to line up. So I'm going to move over this bottom end point here, and I'm just going to track across. There's my tracking line. I'm just going to bring it around about here somewhere. So as you can see, I'm around about 55 mil or something like that. If you're really pedantic about it, you can actually type in 55 and enter, and that'll pop you in that spot. Okay. Now from there, pull your rectangle out and enter the measurement. So 20 tab 60. Okay. There's your rectangle. Apply that to the outline layer. Escape. From there, what we're going to do is make sure you've got ortho on, okay, because we want to make sure all our lines are nice and straight. So that's down in your status bar, or F8 will toggle that on and off. Using the line tool, okay, I'm just going to take lines from the quadrant of this circle. So what we're actually going to be doing now is just drawing the hidden detail and the center lines. So notice with ortho on, I can just pull this straight past and just click anywhere. Okay, press enter to finish, enter to repeat. Okay, click, drag, click, enter, enter, click, click, enter, enter, click, click, enter, enter, click, click. You get the idea. Pretty straightforward. All right, easy enough. So once you've done that, the next step is we're going to select all of these and deselect. Remember, holding shift down and clicking will deselect an object. These are all going to be hidden detail. So we've selected those. Once they're selected, click your layer pull down and choose hidden. We now have them as hidden line types. The one that we deselected, you're going to select that now, and that's going to become center. So that's the center line. Escape. Now we've done that, we've got all our line types selected. Now notice I've only done half of it. The reason I've done that is because the other half is the same. There's no point drawing it again. We're just going to mirror all of this over once done. So from here, we're going to use the trim tool. Now you would have experienced the trim tool, hopefully, if you've done the set square or one of those other drawings. Anyway, the trim tool, that's this little one up here. So we'll click on trim. TR is the quick key if you want to use that. You'll see there's also extend under it, EX for extend. So we're going to click on trim. Very first thing it says is select, like don't have a look at the dynamic inputs that's floating around there. It just says select objects. Have a look at the command line. So down in the command line, that second line down says select cutting edges. Okay, that's the important part. We want to select cutting edges. Now the cutting edges is anything or any object that crosses the objects that you want to trim. So in this case, we want to trim these lines here, and we want to trim them on the other side. So our cutting edges is going to be this rectangle. So select your rectangle, press enter. Okay, so that we've selected our cutting edges. Now it's saying select objects to trim. okay, or shift select to extend. So what that means is now you'll see if I just draw a window over this section, you can click on them individually if you like, but remember we're drawing smart. Okay, draw a window, this is a crossing window over that section, and click, and you'll see that trims it out. Now I'll just show you what shift does. So let's say I've accidentally trimmed these ones up. Holding shift down, since that's still a cutting edge, if I draw a window over these, you'll see it extends it back out. Okay, let go of shift, I'm going to trim this section out. Okay, and enter. So I've now got all those lines trimmed up. This is a center line, it needs to go a bit bigger. Okay, now center line should always extend past your objects, not land on the objects. Alright, so easiest way of doing this, you can click on these and stretch them out. Now if you do stretch them out, stretch both sides equally, otherwise your center point's going to move. Okay, to avoid that happening, just click on the middle grip, enter 3 times, 1, 2, 3, takes us to scale, and if you type in 2, okay, make it twice the size, there we go. Now you can find, if I undo that, if I make it 1.5, okay, 1, 2, 3, 1.5, so 1.5 is still fine. It's got a nice extension amount, and we can still see that that's the center line. Okay, so maybe we'll do 1.5. All good. From there, okay, what I'm actually going to do is we're going to mirror these over to the other side. Okay, since we've already done it on one side, as I was saying again, work smart, not hard. To do this, we're going to use this little tool here called mirror, and I'll explain the mirror at a later date. But select objects, so again, crossing selection window in this case, enter. It's now asking for a mirror line, so you've got to specify the mirror line or the mirror plane. So this is the line that you want to mirror about. Now since we've got this up the top and we want the same thing in the same position down the bottom, our mirror plane has to be halfway from top to bottom. Now you can click anywhere along here, you can go midpoints, endpoints, any of these, or you can just come down, you can click on geometric center if you want. They should all share the same center point since this is an orthographic drawing. Okay, so you can go to midpoint there. Now because I have ortho on, so I'll just click that point. Now you'll see if I move up, I'm drawing a mirror line. So think about this is the plane that you're mirroring about. So if I'm going up, I'm getting it going left to right, right to left. If I move horizontally, you'll see I'm now getting it top to bottom. So what this is sort of saying to you is that your mirror will be always perpendicular to the mirror plane. Okay, so if your mirror plane's left to right, your mirror will go top to bottom. Okay, and if it's top to bottom, you get left to right. If you take ortho off, you can see it will mirror. It's always mirroring perpendicular. Okay, so with the ortho on, you can either pull, you can go over and click on the midpoint on the other side, or you can just pull this straight out anywhere with ortho and click. Now the command is not finished at this stage. You'll see here it's saying erase source objects, yes or no. By default it's no. We want to keep the source objects, which is the ones up the top, so just press enter since no is default. Okay, and there you have your completed drawing. Now one thing, just to have a quick look at this, one thing to take note is see the spaces in the center marks here versus the spaces in the center marks here. Okay, that can be a little bit of an issue. If you want to keep them all the same, what I would suggest is these center marks in here, not use them. I'll just run through this quickly. If we use the DCE as before, click on the center point, select, click, enter, enter, enter. Let's pull that out to maybe, or let's make that 3, and we can apply that to the center layer. Now you'll see we still don't get those little dashes, okay, and the reason that is because the center lines here are not long enough to be able to show those little dashes. You'll see if I pull this out just a touch more, okay, still nothing, a bit more, still nothing, bit more, bit more, bit more. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so that's how long that line needs to be able to show up those center marks. Okay, I think at this stage we'll just leave them as they were. Okay, right. And undo, undo, undo. There we go. And that's your completed drawing. Hopefully you've learned a bit in this tutorial. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.